Okay, so I recorded this during my lunch break, only to find out that I didn't actually push the record button. So we're gonna try this again. And I should probably make sure that's still recording. First, since I keep forgetting to say it, if you like this video or like the videos that I've been putting out, please click the like button below and subscribe if you're not subscribed already. I'm trying to put out about 2 videos a month. Okay, so today I want to talk about some tips to get you started taking photos of moto trials, or if you're already taking photos, some ways that you can improve your shots. So for those of you who don't know me, I started taking photos way back in high school just for fun. Started taking photos of trials in 2015. And 2016-2017 timeframe became one of the photographers for Trials Incorporated. I will link their website, their Facebook page, and their Smug Mug site, which has all our photos on it, if you want to check out some of the shots that we've gotten. So first off, it really doesn't matter what camera you have. The first one that I started with, I bought back in high school, and is the Kodak EasyShare Z650. This thing has 6 megapixels, has no interchangeable lenses, has a 10-time optical zoom, I think 5-time digital zoom, has no real burst mode, but if this is all you have, you can make this work. And the tips that I'm going to go over today will at least get you started. So the first main tip that I have is, regardless of what camera you have, you need to get out of the auto setting. Auto setting means that the camera picks all the settings for you, which is good when you're starting out, but the camera doesn't know what your subject is. It doesn't know how fast your subject's moving. So you really need to take control of your camera and tell the camera what your subject is and work with it to get the shot that you're looking for. So first step I would highly recommend, regardless of what camera you get, is to get out of the auto setting. Put yourself in the manual setting if you do have one. Some cameras don't, but if you do have that option, that's the first thing you should do. Manual setting, you have 3 settings that you need to concern yourself with. The first one is your shutter speed. Your shutter speed is exactly what it sounds like. It's the speed of your shutter. So the slower your shutter speed, the longer your shutter is open, the longer your camera is exposed to the light and exposed to your subject, which means the more light you're going to get into your camera and the more motion blur you're going to get. So think about motocross for a second. Those guys are moving really, really fast. And if you have a really slow shutter speed, if they're going across your camera and you have a very slow shutter speed, you're gonna get motion blur, you're gonna get color trails from one side of your frame the whole way through to the other. Maybe that's what you want, but if you want to freeze that motion, you need a higher shutter speed. You need a faster shutter speed. So what I found as a good starting point for trials, they're not moving nearly as fast as motocross riders, but they're still moving. So what I found is a good starting point is 1/640th of a second. 1/640th of a second or 1/500th of a second is a great place to start. It's fast enough to freeze that motion if they're hitting a splatter or going over a log or going through a creek and you want to get a little bit of that water splash frozen in time. Start with one of those 2 settings. Shutter speed should be the first setting you choose. Everything else fluctuates around that setting. So keep in mind too, the longer your shutter is open, the more light enters your camera, meaning the brighter your shot is going to be. So 1/500th to 1/640th, it's a little bit faster, but it does cut back on the amount of light coming into your camera. So your image may be a little bit darker depending on your environment. So like today is overcast. 1/500th, 1/640th should be perfect. The second setting you need to figure out is your aperture. The aperture value is also known as your f-stop. And if you've watched any photography videos at all, you've heard that term before. Basically, it refers to how open or closed the aperture of your lens is. The smaller your aperture, or the smaller your f-stop number, the wider the opening is to your lens. The wider the opening to your lens is, the more light comes into your sensor, the brighter your image is going to be. But aperture also has a second impact on your image. The smaller your f-stop number, the less of your image is going to be in focus. But as you can see right now, I'm around f3.2, 3.5. I should be in focus. Hopefully I'm in focus. And the background should be nice and blurry. A smaller f-stop number means less of your image is going to be in focus, but it lets more light in to counteract. Maybe you have a fast shutter speed, or maybe you need a fast shutter speed. So bumping your aperture down to a lower f-stop allows more light in to hit your sensor. This is a setting that you need to change to taste. So if you like that nice, creamy, blurry background, maybe you want to choose a smaller f-stop number. If you want more of your image in focus, you want to choose a higher f-stop number. So f14, f18, f22. Just keep in mind that the higher your number, the smaller the opening to your lens gets. And the smaller your opening is, the less light comes in, the darker your image is going to be. So we've gone over shutter speed. That is always the first setting that I choose. And we've looked at aperture. So remember, aperture not only determines how much of your image is in focus, but it also determines how bright or how dark your image is. The last setting that I want to go over is your ISO setting. ISO is your sensor sensitivity. A lower ISO value means that your image sensor is less sensitive to light. The higher your ISO setting, the more sensitive it is. If you need to brighten up your image at all, you want to choose a higher ISO value. The downside to that is higher ISO values add more grain to your photo. And if you're okay with that, awesome, go for it. If that's your style, if that's what you like. But if not, and you want a nice crispy image, you want to choose the lowest ISO value you can. But again, that's a completely creative decision. You do whatever works best for your style. So the second tip that I have is to know your section. For those of you who don't know what trials is, or you just found out, I'll pop up some images from the first year that I was taking photos. They're a little rough, so be gentle in the comments. But hey, we all gotta start somewhere, right? So whenever you get to a section, take a couple moments, watch some riders go through, see where each class has to go through, which gates, what obstacles they have, and really look at it from a spectator standpoint. So where do you as a spectator want to stand to get the best view of the section? Do you have a rock that's 6 foot high that they're gonna go over? And if so, do you wanna stand on the side of it? Do you wanna stand on the face of it? Do you wanna see the rider's back, the rider's face? Where do you as a spectator wanna see that? So put yourself in the spectator's shoes. That's where you need to stand as a photographer. That's where you need to be. So I found that for my style, I like showing the rider head on, but off to the side a little bit. So you get to see not only their face, but the bike, the tank of the bike, which is very small, you guys know that, and as much detail as you can as to the obstacle that they're going over. So I'll show you a couple different images, different obstacles, and different standpoints that I've found that I really like. But there again too, you need to take a second to walk the section. Even if you miss a couple riders, that's fine. Trust me, they'll be back on their second or third loop. But what you really need to do is you need to walk your section, just like a rider would do. Go in, walk the novice line. Where's the novice going? For me, the novice is the hardest class to photograph because they really don't have too many hard obstacles. They have some small logs, maybe some small rocks in a creek, but they don't have too many large obstacles to go over. So you really need to get creative with the lower classes. The experts, of course, they're hitting the 6 foot splatter, they're hitting all the big stuff, they're doing all the cool turns, they're doing the floater turns, they're doing everything that looks awesome that helps promote the sport. But you really need to take a second and promote every class, because not every rider is going to come in and automatically be in your expert class. The other thing you can do too when you get to a new section is talk to the checker. Talk to the checker, see what spots maybe people are having difficulties on, because we all love a good crash photo, as long as the person's okay. But ask the checker where people are getting hung up. Maybe that's a good spot to show not only how easy trials is, but also how difficult it can be. And me as a photographer for Trials Incorporated, I've been trying to showcase all the riders, because a lot of riders don't actually have photos of themselves doing what they love. So not only do we as photographers trying to help promote the sport of trials, need to showcase the awesome things that the experts and the champs do. We also need to showcase that there are tons of novice and intermediate class riders. We really need to showcase all the classes, because it's not just the expert and the champ riders who help make this sport what it is. It's your novice, it's your intermediate, it's even your youth classes. So if you have youth classes, absolutely try to get up early and make it to the youth classes. Help promote youth trials because they are the future of the sport. The other thing that I've done, because I'm friends with a lot of the guys in our club, is when you see them come through on a loop, ask them what section they like. Ask them what section has some really cool obstacles, maybe some big ups, maybe some big splatters, maybe a cool rock or a sharp turn. Ask the riders which sections they like, because trust me, they'll be the first ones to tell you which sections would show the coolest shots. And most of the time, those are the sections that they're talking about after the event. I had no experience at a faster sport going into trials. If you're anything like me, the photos from your first couple events are going to be a little rough. Like I said, you saw the images that I started out with, and I'm hoping you'll say I've improved since then. But it took a couple events. It took a couple events getting to know the sport, getting to know my camera. I upgraded from this one to an entry-level DSLR that had interchangeable lenses. It took me probably a good half season to get to know my camera, know the settings, know the environments, know when to change what settings. But once you get a good feel for it, it'll be second nature and you won't even think about it.
Oh, you're all right.
So the third tip that I have is to get inspiration. Take a look at what other professional trials photographers are doing. Take a look at the shots that they're getting. See where they're putting themselves in relation to the rider. Are they putting themselves head on, so the rider's coming directly at them? Are they putting themselves behind the rider? How are they showcasing the obstacle that the rider's trying to go over? Obviously your champ classes are the easiest ones to take photos of because they go over some really big things. But take a look at all their other classes. Take a look at the lower levels. How are they showcasing the novice rider and the skills that the novice rider is learning along the way? So I'll list a couple of photographers that I draw inspiration from in the description below in this video. And take a look at their editing style too. But there are some major points to the editing style that I think you should pay attention to. A lot of the images that I've seen from people who are just starting out have a very heavy vignette. When you look at all the pro photographers, you don't see a lot of that. So be careful adding too much vignette or too much darkening around the outside of your photo. The second point is oversaturation. So bumping your colors up way too far. From everything that I've seen, moderation is key. And another point, be very, very careful with selective color. Selective color is basically turning your entire photo black and white and choosing one part of your image to be colored. Again, if you look through sports magazines, especially extreme sports like Red Bull, Racer X, look at all your motocross images, look at all your trials images. Get a sense for what the market looks like. Now granted, build your own style, by all means have at it. But if you want to be successful, take some tips off of the pros and see what they're doing. So that's it, that's all I got. 3 tips to get started taking photos in trials or get better at the photos you're already taking. So like I said before, if you like this video, push the like button below. Hit subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Push the bell to get notified when I post new videos. And if you disliked this video, leave a comment below as to what you disagreed with or how I can improve for the next video. Or if you have any questions, leave questions below. Maybe I'll do some more of these if you guys like them. Maybe I'll explain some of my settings that I chose at a particular event. But I don't know, leave me a comment, write something, let me know you're watching.